I basically went from the guy that just got the job of my life to trying to drive to work, just being in pain on prescription pills that my doctors gave me in order to be better. And I found myself in a courtroom and had to go through that. And because of the zero tolerance, even though I wasn't above the legal or therapeutic dose in terms of the blood work, they still, because of the zero tolerance, I had to go.
So you went to jail?
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode.
All right, guys, from Nashville, Jon Youngs, my man. Thanks for coming on.
I'm pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, quite the story, man. Motorcycle accident.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at wrecking my body. That was one of the joys of growing up as an athlete. I always liked things with contact.
Yeah.
Football, ice hockey. As I got older, I got into motorcycles. And then after crashing motorcycles, it taught me quite a bit of how bad it can be when you actually hit the pavement as opposed to just doing stunts and looking cool.
How fast were you going?
If the police are watching, I was actually going probably about 85 miles an hour, rush
Holy
hour.
crap.
A lady cut me off. I don't know if you've ever been to Arizona. We have super highways almost. And there's like 7 lanes. And I'm riding away. I just got done donating my time to a Little League football team and driving home. And a lady photo radar flashed and she was speeding. And I was in the HOV lane. And all of a sudden slams on her brakes, the car cut her off, and I learned how to do a fast endo at 90 miles an hour and clipped it, flew across 8 lanes, and broke ribs, tore all the ligaments in my feet.
Holy
was in a
crap.
wheelchair for 4 months conservatively. That was I had to be in it. I just couldn't walk because everything was, my legs looked like zombie feet. Everything was miserable. I was just pumped up full of pain meds. And that was actually one of the things that led me to where I'm at today, was just on drugs the whole time. So it was rough, man. It was a tough part of my life because that was a big part of my career. I had just landed a big job and had to start it being a drug addict, which is kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard to give your boss a good first impression when you're hopped up on drugs.
Yeah, and that took you 2 years to recover, right?
2 full years. I had one of the things I did, a hole in my foot from flipping down the freeway. As a big guy, when you flip down, you hit a little harder than most people, and I scraped literally, the ankle bone, the little ball
right
on the
here?
side of your foot.
Oh,
like
the ball. Yeah.
Right there. It basically just shaved that off and created a hole. And
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was not exciting. And I had to keep draining it, wrapping it, walking with a cane, So it was just a nonstop reminder of how bad it was and what it felt like. And that's where the drug use started to, really take over my life.
So you were basically taking those every day for how long?
So it started out as 3 to 4 months, right? And then part of that recovery started to continue, and they're like, "We'll just give you more." And I wasn't working with, these aren't street drugs, right? These are some of the top doctors in the country that were helping me, but there was just really no other option. All we really know how to do is put a Band-Aid on stuff. And so they kept pumping me full of drugs, and as you keep taking those, they keep giving you more.
And the dosage has to be higher too, right?
So you just get more and more, and then by the time you heal, you're a full-blown, opiate addict, essentially, is what I want to call it, because I was so dependent on those drugs. And
so even when you were healed, you were still taking them?
Yeah, you have no choice, right? Because I wanted to get off. I was done, but your body, when you do that, when you get off opiates, your body withdrawals, you can't tell if it's pain or if it's actually withdrawal. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm still in pain, I need this. And until you detox and realize that was literally the drugs talking, you can absolutely, once you get away from that, you don't need those pills, But I learned the hard way.
Dang. Yeah. So walk me through that detox process. What did you have to do?
So realistically for me, I had to do, everybody start with Suboxone. It's the drug that allows you to get your dose, but it's not, you can't abuse it. If you start to abuse or you take any opiates on those, it'll essentially ignite a withdrawal, make you sick. So it helps people still get that little bit of a feeling, but not actually be able to get a dose. And then you slowly are supposed to wean off that. But unfortunately, most people end up getting more addicted to that. So the best way for me was, with the irony with this, and it kind of leads me into what I did, was I ended up getting a DUI for trying to drive to my new job.
Oh, wow.
So I wasn't out partying with the boys and doing this. I was trying to drive to work. I just got a new job.
And you could get that off painkillers?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what they did was, and that I didn't either. And see, here's the deal: when I was going to work, I'm sure being banged up. I literally was driving to work 2 days post accident. I got out of the hospital. I just landed my first 6-figure job, and I wasn't going to miss that for anybody. I looked like death, and showed up to work and drove home and got pulled over in the afternoon. I went home. I was actually going to the pharmacy to get more of my pain medications. And got pulled over. It's a normal, they're like, hey, I saw you swerving a little bit. I'm like, okay. And they do blood work and they see that.
Oh, they took your blood?
So that's how they do it. The zero tolerance. And this is what, in Arizona, they're very strict. And
damn.
we call it, come on vacation, leave on probation. And he's like, so, I think you're impaired. Because, when you take opiates or pills, your pupils are dilated.
Right.
So he took me to the station, they draw blood, and I wasn't above a therapeutic dose, but it's still a zero tolerance issue. Well, me being an arrogant young professional with a brand new job that I had, bank account was climbing, I decided to be I was a little arrogant, and I was a little snippy with him because I'm like, bud, I'm not doing anything here. I'm coming to get my prescription, just trying to go to work. Well, you were swerving, and I started running my mouth. No big deal. They impound the car like they do on any DUI. I wake up the next day, done taking a pill, because that was an eye-opening experience. That was my first, other than a speeding ticket, that was my first ever interaction like that, where I had technically was put in handcuffs and taken to a to the station, and it wakes you up. So the whole night I was soul searching. I go up to go get my car out of the impound. I turn back in, and guess who pulled me over?
Same guy.
Same guy. And the fun fact, which I learned about this too in Arizona, is 2 misdemeanor DUIs, even if it is zero tolerance, is actually a F4 felony. So they aggravate it to a felony.
Wow.
And so that's 2.5 years of jail time.
Yeah.
And so I basically went from the guy that just got the job of my life to trying to drive to work, just being in pain on prescription pills that my doctors gave me in order to be better. And I found myself in a courtroom and had to go through that. And because of the zero tolerance, even though I wasn't above the legal or therapeutic dose in terms of the blood work, they still, because of the zero tolerance, I had to go.
Dang. So you went to jail?
I went to jail for 2.5 years. And
Holy
at that
crap.
time, it was too hard to fight because it's state statute. Like there's mandatory minimums. Hindsight's 2020 is the best thing that ever happened to me, but then it was rough though. It was a soul crusher. You got your new job and it's like, hey, can't show up anymore. I've got to do some time as a guest of the state of Arizona, and the whole world shattered.
Damn.
Yeah, it was
and
rough.
were you still having the drug issue while in jail?
Yes, and this is the hardest part. So we talk about, with one of the things, I think it was a turning point for me because they don't care about your drug problems. They're not going to fuel your drugs. They're going to give you ibuprofen, or they're going to give you the basic things. When you take those kind of opiates, you withdraw, and they try to minimize those things, but it just didn't happen. And first 2 weeks, I was pretty much found unresponsive and had to be taken to the hospital, and just sitting in a little jail cell, just like it was miserable. For 2.5 weeks, I lost like 28 pounds. Essentially, quit cold turkey. That was forced cold turkey. But then you come out of that and you're like, wow. Like it was an eye-opening. I never would have done it if it wasn't for being forced to. And I know there's a lot of people like that you're addicted to something, but you can't get off. Like alcohol or any of these. It's one of those, your body, it's an evil thing. It really is. It takes over your body, and there's just no chance unless you really do get help or you have some kind of support to actually get off those things.
Yeah. So you had no idea you were even addicted until that incident?
I was naive, and I told myself, well, the top doctors in the country are prescribing this, so why? I'm not doing anything wrong. It's a prescription. Right. And then at that point, you realize, like, okay, yeah, that is a problem. I'm addicted, and here I am, and I'm realizing my addiction, truthfully, as I'm detoxing in jail, which was...
Are you interested in coming on the Digital Social Hour podcast as a guest? Well, click the application link below in the description of this video. We are always looking for cool stories, cool entrepreneurs to talk to about business and life. Click the application link below, and here's the episode, guys.
It's a hell of a place to have an epiphany,
I
to say the
bet.
least, right?
And you did not fit in there.
Not at all. I'm not the guy with a criminal history. I wasn't in juvenile detention like most of these guys. You have career offenders in there, drunks, all of it. I wasn't with, I know everyone is level 4 yard. I was in the level 2, like minimum security. So it wasn't like I was, getting shanked in my sleep. It was just other people like me. And ironically, it was a bunch of captains of their industry. It was
Really?
CFOs of businesses. They
Wow.
had multiple DUIs. Just paying the price for having those after work cocktails behind the
Yeah.
wheel.
Arizona doesn't mess around, man.
Arizona does not mess around. Scottsdale Road is actually the #1 DUI road in the country. So
Wow.
if anyone ever visits Scottsdale, Uber. We didn't have that luxury there, but Uber is your friend for sure.
Is it still like that there?
They're strict, but I think now with Uber and Lyft and all the cool places, like all the options, it's so much better. But yes, if you risk it, I don't care if you have the fancy car. I don't care if you want to show off what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just park the car, take pictures, show people on your phone, and Uber.
Yeah. So you got out and went straight to Nashville, or
pretty much. What happened was I got out, and at that time I was trying to. My dad passed away while I was in there.
oh, that's terrible.
And
Sorry to
it
hear
was
that.
one of the, thank you. It was one of the roughest things because I didn't get to say bye.
Yeah.
Because of drugs and because of that. One of the motivations while I'm sitting in there every night was I've got to get out and do something. I can't just be a cook at Chili's where people say, "Oh, bless his little heart. He's stayed clean and it's like I wasn't a drug addict. I was just trying to fix myself." So when I was in there, I took all that time to learn about fitness, nutrition. I read, became a geek, and got my body back in shape, started focusing on that. And it really catapulted me into a different level of what I was looking at. So I wanted to learn how to help people and fix myself first and foremost, and people that have those issues where all we do is turn to Band-Aids or, drugs, for instance, or here, let's just put a Band-Aid on this and make you feel good for a little bit. And then you kind of fend for yourself. There was never any like actionable way to solve problems. So that's kind of what I set out to do with a group of friends that were linked in the corporate wellness space.
Yes, you started looking at alternative therapies, structural tissue products, right?
Yeah, structural tissues are, I don't know how much, I know you've probably talked about them before, but structural tissues, or birth tissues, is really what I started, really got extremely deep in. I was blessed enough to be study under multiple PhDs, but one guy in particular, one of these scientists, I call him a unicorn, which of course unicorns are mythological creatures that only exist in fairy tales, but that's really what he is. And his ability to utilize these birth tissue products and birth tissue is really, when you talk about birth tissue, there's so much that you can encompass because there's so many applications for birth tissue. There's structural tissues, there's stem cells, there's exosomes. So there's so many different things that these products can be applied to. And the cool part, when I say birth tissue, so when people hear this, they don't freak out. These are ethically sourced, C-section donated birth tissues. This is not embryonic stem cells or taken from aborted fetuses. This is the safest, most regulated type forms of birth tissue. And structural tissues, to that point, are basically the building blocks in the body. They have all of those key components that help you heal. Stem cells, you probably hear all the time. People are leaving the country. They're doing all these things.
Colombia, Mexico.
Colombia, Mexico. They used to go to Germany for a little bit. Kobe was one of the first to go do that. So everybody understands the benefits to it, and they just go out and they go get their IVs and they go get injections. And that's awesome, and I respect everybody in this space for doing that. I think that's, they're the ones pushing us forward. But we were really trying to be that group that could play in the space and be compliant. We have an FDA for a reason. They're strict with their rules, and we wanted to not always have to send somebody outside the country. Are we able to expand stem cells in the commercial space that's available to you and I? No. But we can still make the way we've been able to harvest these products. It's been compliant within the birth tissue industry.
Nice.
So we are able to help people here on the home front. And I think one of the benefits to staying in the United States is that that's the one bonus to them being so strict, is that we have such better quality parameters for tissue sourcing. So when we have this, all of our stuff is third-party tested. It comes from American Association of Tissue Banks accredited laboratory and procurement agencies. And these people go above and beyond. So the testing is next level. We're not just taking any donated umbilical cord. We're getting specific donors. We know exactly what age. We know demographic. And even though we still get perfect specimens to utilize, we end up throwing away 87% of those anyway, because I know it's an expensive way to have to procure what we need to do to make these products. But we want perfection, because at the end of the day, insurance does not cover these.
Right.
And we need people, if you're going to reach in your pocketbook, right? So especially if you're a struggling up and coming person, or you're someone who's been injured, you just don't have tons of money. You can't spend tens of $20,000.
Yeah.
So we really tried to find a way to kind of bring that cost down and find a way to manufacture these products in a way that we could still make these products affordable and attainable. One of our scientists said this best 5-6 years ago when we first got together. He said, John, if a product's too expensive, it doesn't exist. And as simple as that, that statement is, it's profound, because especially through watching all this, watching how many people lost their jobs. I know they were getting some stimulus money, but people were hurting. But people still need to fix themselves.
Right.
And so that's really who we've been, is trying to play the game correctly, being able to follow the rules, but still offer a therapy that's good and safe for people to utilize here in the States.
I want to dive into some of those therapies. So Hylojet and Hylopure, what are those?
So Hylogel they're structural tissue products is what they are, and that's why I'm glad we're able to bring those up. They're products that you can essentially utilize. Doctors have been utilizing them in different ways, because it's up to physician discretion on how these are utilized. But Hylogel is typically been used as an injectable. So you're going to, it provides cushioning, provides structural support. The one cool thing about these birth tissue products is, in the structural tissues, you have hyaluronic acid, you have growth factors, you have proteins, that you have the stem cells. The structural tissues contain stem cells. So you have everything you need to promote repair and regeneration. And when we're able to introduce them in the body, I think so many people, when they hear stem cell therapies, they're like, I don't need that. I'm young. I'm 25. I'm 35. I'm 50. My grandmother might need that.
Right.
There's an interesting fact that I think it simplifies it. Keep it simple. Why people should look at these types of therapies is that when you're 10, and we always say that, a 2-year-old falls down, skins their knee tomorrow, that's no scar, absolutely fine. I do it right now. It's 30 days of like Neosporin, and, need some serious help. So when you're 10, your body produces on a 30-day cycle roughly about 1 billion stem cells.
Wow.
So that's a lot, right? And you wonder, like, you heal, you feel good. You twist something, you get injured, you feel better. By the time you're 25, it's down to 32,000 a month. So that's it. Yeah, and then here's the other fun part for those of us, because I'm over 40. So those of you that are over 40, you're down to 3,200.
Holy crap!
So if you think about that, like, why am I getting older? Why don't I recover as well? It's because your body's literally aging a lot sooner than I think most people realize.
Yeah, that is rapid aging.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is there ways to reverse that?
So it's called, there's an old thing, it's called parabiosis, is really what, I'm sure, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's essentially where you take younger source tissue or proteins and you put that into an older specimen. So what happens is, in this world, we're using the youngest form of tissue, right? So umbilical cord tissue is donated C-section birth. So that's zero age, I call it. I don't know if there's actually a scientific term, but I call it zero age to make people realize what it is. And so when you take a zero age, and say you're a 45-year-old patient, you have 45-year-old stem cells, you have 45-year-old exosomes. We all have these things occurring naturally in our bodies now.
Right.
When we give you a younger source, it can talk seamlessly. These younger proteins will talk to your aging proteins or damaged proteins and actually repair you at the cellular level. So they're using those young proteins to essentially help those older tissues repair and regenerate and replenish themselves. So they essentially kind of rewind that epigenetic clock. It's one of those, we have a study coming out, I'm not sure if it's out yet, but it's one of the universities in Florida, where the guy reversed his biological age almost 7.9 years with just 2 therapies of our products.
That's incredible.
That's insane. And we know, like, because that stuff's measurable. And I think a lot of times if people just go to a stem cell IV or leave the country to do all those things, some of them are like, I don't know what it did. And most people don't even appreciate those types of products or those types of therapies until they start to wear off.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. It's not like ketamine. It's not like, adrenaline. People are like, I don't feel anything. Like, well, that's good. You don't
So
want to
cool.
feel anything. It's supposed to be a natural remedy that you're able to just slowly start to feel better.
Yeah. And do they inject it? How does it work?
So some doctors utilize it IV. Some doctors will inject directly into site of pain, so there'll be trigger point.
Yeah.
Really, anywhere there's tissue, that's one of the places. So a lot of people put it in the knees. I can tell you this: we've worked with. I don't know if you ever look at why your favorite athlete or performer or someone who gets hurt or injured, and all of a sudden they're miraculously back way faster, and you're like, I wonder.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, right. Well, I know, right? I can't say you use our stuff. I'm not sure, but I know that it's not just wonderful techniques by their by the surgeons. And don't get me wrong, they've gotten better, but the body takes time to heal. And these products and what you're seeing is really helping speed up recovery, and it's also helping a lot of people even pre-surgery where they're being proactive. Well, they will actually take these products, knowing that it's not going to fix them. If you have a fully cut, tendon or ligament, you're going to have to still go get that surgically repaired.
Yeah.
But it keeps the tissue healthy. It's easier for the physician or the surgeon to go manipulate that and put it back together if you're able to use these products prior to it. So
This is
that's
super exciting, man. I tested my biological age last month.
nice. What did it say? Do you
I
have
got
anything-
21.
Dude, that's amazing.
So I'm 27. So imagine with this, I'll be in my teenage years.
Well, yes, I'm saying. To that point, I think some people, I'm always like, listen, we're not going to make you a curious case of Benjamin Button. You're not just going to go backwards, but that's awesome. And that's what people don't realize. And I'm 42 myself, and you feel it. I mean, and that's why these products have been such a game changer and as a whole, because one of the biggest things they do too that I like to bring up for those people that aren't professional athletes or aren't, wrecking themselves in motorcycle accidents and car accidents is they're awesome senolytics. So they essentially they're getting rid of all inflammation in the body. They're really helping bring your body back to center.
Right.
And I don't think you ever know some people get older, 60, 65 plus, they get out a clean bill of health their whole life, and all of a sudden they've got some random new autoimmune issue or some random new disease or a cancer. And that's really because we hold so much senescence. At the end of our cellular life, the body's supposed to flush out those cells, those aging or zombie type cells. It doesn't all the time. So your body's sitting there holding on to those, and say a cancer does come by, it can leach onto those
It's
things.
too weak to fight at that
Yep.
age.
And then all of a sudden those zombie cells, why do we call them zombie cells? Because they act just like zombies. They'll follow the crowd. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, let's just go with this. You move me here, we're just going to follow the crowd and go do bad things pretty much. And so we're able to really get rid of that inflammation, and that's, I think, a game changer for a lot of people. Is it's not just so much reactionary medicine. We're actually trying to be more preventative and not have you get cancer and then try to treat it. We can really start to do cool things and actually help people feel better and live their best life and be proactive about it before they start really getting into those later years where the problems really start to come for anybody. It doesn't matter how healthy you are.
That's incredible, because a lot of people in their elderly years, when they fall, they actually can't heal fast enough, so they end up passing away.
Yes.
Because their body's not strong enough.
That's exactly it. They can't. They have nothing to heal, and then they lack of sleep. And it's one of those things. The inflammation is really what gets the best of them, and then sleep is where we heal. Sleep. That's why they always tell you try to get 7 hours of sleep. If you wear one of the special watches or, the Oura Ring or something, it tells you like you didn't have enough sleep. Sleep is how we repair and heal ourselves, and that's critical. So you're absolutely right. We're trying to have that option to help these people heal, so they can have some longevity instead of just laying in a bed, taking drugs until it's their time.
Much better alternative. How often would they need to get these treatments?
It varies by patient and what you're trying to treat. I see people that do maintenance doses for general wellness just to feel good, get rid of inflammation, get rid of brain fog, and do all those things, because that's one of the things it's going to do is, especially like in a post world where a lot of people either had, respiratory issues, maybe some labored breathing, and brain fog. It helps really eliminate that. It starts to bring you back, so cognitive improvement goes through the roof. It doesn't take you as long to search for those words. I've noticed, and this maybe it's me personally, and I've talked to quite a few. I mean, we've done over hundreds of thousands of therapies at this point, through different doctors over the years. And most people, they get heightened senses. Like your vision will look a little clearer. Like you'll look at a screensaver on your iPhone and be like, wow, this is
Really?
Wow, like why is it so bright? Why is it so amazing and vivid? My smell was better. My hearing's a little better. I'm not saying that lasts forever. You're not going to turn into Superman, but it is pretty cool how it's able to do that. So you start to see little things where your body just starts to optimize, and really that's removing the inflammation and giving it those proteins and nutrients that it needs to perform at an optimum level.
Sounds amazing. Any risks or downsides to this?
You know, and that's one of the fun parts of the world we're in is we've been a part of hundreds of thousands. We've had zero reported adverse reactions, at least in our world.
That's crazy.
It's huge. That's a big, early on we had 10,000 and that was great, right? But to be really at this level where, and it comes down to the lab. And I got to give my scientists credit and the team there, because being meticulous. I know you're a meticulous dude. You've got the same kind of mindset. He's a savant, so he's being so meticulous and being so precise with what he does. We're able to not only set standards for tissue procurement to make sure we're getting the safest, to make sure we're doing the third-party testing, to make sure we have that transparency. I mean, we're one of the only labs, and I say we because my company, BioXtem, is actually the master distributor and co-creator of a few of the products with VD Labs. So
nice.
VD Labs is the name of the lab, and we have been fighting the good fight for so long now that we've been able to kind of work together, and I've watched him. He's kind of taught me and my team how to kind of be snobby. Like, we're almost snobby about our procurement. We know exactly what we want. We want to do the testing. We don't ever want it to come back. We don't allow dirty product. There's so many things we test for, even beyond what the FDA requires. And another thing too, we're AATB accredited, which is an American Association of Tissue Banks. There's only 123 labs in the country that have that actual accreditation, and we're one of them. So we're really out there playing the game the right way, really trying to listen to those regulatory bodies, but also still be able to provide products that allow physicians to do their thing and help humanity.
Incredible. Do you think insurance will ever cover this one day?
We have, so the cool part is we're one of the few. I'm not saying there's not other labs that have these, but we do have 3 clinical trials approved with the FDA. So that's, the clinical side is not available on the commercial side, but that means that the FDA is, they're looking. If you're doing good science, if you're doing good work and you can show efficacy or safety, they are giving us a chance. So we have multiple INDs or investigational new drug applications. The irony of that, I think, is there's nothing inorganic about these products. But
it's not a drug.
Not a drug at all, in our opinion. I mean, you look at it, it's not more than minimal manipulation. All you're doing is taking something and putting it in a vial. We're not using crazy growth mediums or special devices to do this stuff. So, but the FDA is still seeing that, and they understand that we are making strides to do this. So I do think down the road, it has potential. The problem with the clinical trial space, and that's why most of, even some of the guys you've had on here, they just leave the country, is the rest of the world knows how valuable stem cell and exosome therapies are. Unfortunately, I think in our world, it'll probably, depending, like wound care, I think we'll have some, so we can use it for that. But typically, it's going to be 6 to 10 years easy.
Yeah. Well, other countries don't have big pharma up their ass too.
Yeah. Well, big pharma is the big part. I know. I love you, big pharma, for this thing, but no, that's a lot of the funding. You got to think about the FDA is funded.
They're the country's biggest source of revenue. I just found out.
Exactly.
Isn't that
crazy? And that's what you see it. Trust me, we get to see that. We understand the roadblocks, and I think a lot of it too is a lot of those guys at that level. They're very, very intelligent people. I'm not taking that away from them, but the one thing about us, we've been grinding for this. The people in our space, not just our company, but all of us, we're the ones actually grinding. We've watched these types of products develop, and we've seen it. We're in the trenches. They're the ones, taking secondary information and, gathering data. We're the ones actually working with these different tissue types. So I think once they catch up with their level of understanding and scientists can educate them, I think they'll start to open their eyes, because when people aren't dying or getting injured by a majority of those of us for products that are doing it right, it's kind of hard to dispute. Early on, when we didn't have data, there was something there. But what we've seen now, it's almost impossible to argue the safety.
It's incredible with no complications, because with organ transplants, there's complications there. But with this, somehow, I guess
it's there's no, because we don't use blood. There's no cord blood like they used to. You probably, if you ever look at studies, they try doing cord blood. Yeah. I'm not saying cord blood doesn't have its place in this world, but for what we're doing, there doesn't need to be HLA typing. There doesn't need to be all this matching. There's no extra risk for bloodborne pathogens or illnesses. So it's made it a lot safer to kind of utilize, because we're really getting specific with just this specific tissue, because it has the ability to kind of, like MSCs, for instance, that are part of that, or that are part of these birth tissues or mesenchymal stem cells, they have the ability to morph into different things. So when people ask, why do they work or how do they work, they're able to kind of go in and utilize wherever you have a deficiency or wherever something's signaling, they can use those proteins and say, hey, we're going to come help you. So we can be this today. This needs issue. This inflammation's happening. We can go help with this. That's why everybody loves mesenchymal stem cells or mesenchymal stem cells. People say it differently. But they're so smart. I call them like the chameleons, so they can kind of do a little bit of everything. They can help us in many different ways within the body.
So cool. John, where can people learn more about this and possibly get a consultation?
Absolutely. They can go to my website. It's www.bioextem.com. BIOX as in X-ray, STEM as in Mary.com. And very limited with what we're able to put in writing, but we work with doctors all over the country, and if people want to know about it, we can point them in the right direction, try to help answer a few questions, and then get them to a solid physician that's actually able to take a deeper dive and see what we can do to help them.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, man.
Not a problem. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned.